In this lesson, we're going to learn how to attach multiple splines to create a different shape. Alright, so in the last lesson we had created our original shape with our first spline, and then we made a copy of that spline, and we had created some topology to create this 3D shape that you see here using the surface modifier. Now what we want to do is we want to create the thickness of our fuselage by combining the two splines together. So let's go ahead and select line 002, and I'm going to go ahead and delete that surface modifier just for right now. And what I want to do is I want to attach this spline to this spline. So let's attach that, and you'll see they are now one object, but still two different elements. And what we want to do now is go ahead and apply that surface modifier again, just so we can see this. And one thing that you'll notice is that that center line has disappeared. And the reason that it's disappeared is because the surface modifier won't work on it because it's not broken up into quads like we had seen before. Now, we are going to do that, but we're just going to do it a little bit differently than we did in the last lesson. Let's go ahead and go to our line, and we're going to go to vertex mode, and you'll see that that line reappears. But I want to be able to see my surface modifier while I'm working. And whenever you go up and down into the modifier stack, so whenever you go down, it's going to show its present state. But I want to be able to see that result. And the way that I can do that is by clicking on Show End Result. So here you can see the modifier is now applied, and I can still access the vertices of the line. So what do we do here? Well, at this point what we want to do is we want to create that thickness. And when working with splines, all we need to do is refine them to create surfaces. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit Connect and Linear, and let's activate Refine, and let's just go straight across. So let's go to this vertex to this one. We'll right click, and that's now created that line from that one to this one. But you'll notice there's no plane. So what has happened? Well, we haven't finished out that geometry. We need to create another segment from here to here, or from here to here. So we'll right click, Refine Connect. Let's go from this vertex to this one. Whenever we right click, you'll see that that surface has been drawn. So this is a great way to model and still be able to see your geometry as it's being built. I always like to teach splines first because it creates a good habit of how to create nice and neat topology, and it really gives an insight on how models are supposed to be built. Alright, so let's continue on. Let's right click, Refine Connect. Let's go from this vertex to here, right click, and we'll continue this process. Refine Connect, go from here to here, right click, and I'm just going to go right straight across. I'm not going to worry about the topology too much along the bottom just yet. If it bothers you too much, you can always select around that and push that over in the X direction. Okay, so let's go from this vertex to here. We'll right click, and then finally we'll go to this one. Now it's extremely important that whenever you are creating geometry with this method, it's important that you don't get wrapped up in creating a lot of vertices, especially around an area that has really curved shapes, because if you have a lot of vertices, you have to go through and refine quite a bit, and that could be a little bit of an issue. Alright, so here we have the fuselage. Let's go to our front view and just see what that looks like. So I just hit F on the keyboard, and in this section right here we're going to have the canopy. So we don't necessarily need any geometry underneath that. We're going to create an interior for this a little later on. So where I need to go from here is this vertex to here, and then finish it off at the top. So let's right click, Refine Connect, go from here to here, right click. We'll right click again and go to Refine Connect, this vertex to this one, so we're left clicking on both of those and then right clicking to end that process. Now you could go ahead and create the polygons along the back, but that's not necessary at this point because we're going to continue to build out the fuselage as we go along. Now there's just a couple of things that I want to work on before we move forward, and I'm going to go to my top view, and just a couple of things that I want to work on are going to be this corner here. You'll notice that it's missing, so what I need to do is I need to get that corner back. So how do I build that in this case? Well, I need to go ahead and make a connection or refine this corner so I can drag that out. But what it does is it creates a little bit of an issue here. First off, I have this triangle, so how do I make this the proper way? Let's go to our front view and just see this really quickly. Well, what I could do is I could cut from here to here and make that a little bit easier on myself, and then I've got a place for this bit of topology to go. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Let's just see what it looks like. So we're going to use that refine connect still, and I'm going to go from this point across, and then we'll right click, and then what I can do is I can go to my front view, and then I'm going to select around those vertices. So hit F3 to go to your wireframe. Let's just make sure that we have both of those vertices selected, and then I'm going to drag this out to this point right here. So now you can see how that makes that that shape there. Let's go ahead and select just around that vertex there, just that one on the corner, and I'm going to push this in the Y direction, and it's going to create a nice beveled edge for this. I'm also going to do the same thing for this one. Let's push that in, and we've got a really nice edge here, a really nice shape, looking really good. Now we still need to deal with that corner. So in our top view, we need to get that out of there. So let's hit P on the keyboard to go to our perspective view, and I'm going to use refine, and I'm going to go from this point right here, and we're just going to continue going down, and you'll notice that it's getting rid of all of our polygons. There's nothing wrong with this. We just need to finish out our line. So we'll go from here, and then we're going to stop right here in the middle. So we're going to cut across and terminate to the middle. We'll right click, and once we do that, you'll see that our polygons come back, and now we have that geometry that we can use to create that corner. Now you just heard me use a term called terminate. Terminate means that whenever we are creating topology, that we are ending it or terminating it in a location like the center line here, to where it basically doesn't go into anything, or it terminates into a triangle, which makes a quad, or it terminates into another vertex. It just means end. Alright, so let's go ahead and select these vertices that we just created along this corner. Okay, just those. We don't want that center one there. And let's go to our top view by hitting T on the keyboard, and let's just drag these until we get right here to that corner. Alright, very nice. Nice looking shape here. Very happy with that. The only thing that I'm going to change very quickly is just this one corner, and I'm going to drag this in my X and Y and just straighten that up a little bit more. I'm going to take this one too and push that over in the Y. Alright, nice, neat little shape there, looking very, very good. Really happy with the way that fuselage is looking. Let's go to our top view and let's just check to make sure that this is the exact shape that we want. A couple of issues that I see. First off, this top line that is supposed to be following the canopy is not following the canopy. So how do we get that shape? Well, we can do that by hitting Alt and X, and you'll see that that makes our object see-through, and that's going to make it very easy for us to follow along with our reference image. Alt and X is see-through. If you want to be able to remember it a little bit easier, you can just think of X-ray. Okay, so let's select these vertices right along the top, and I'm just going to move those over in the X until those meet up with the canopy. Now if you're unable to see that, you can always, I don't want to say guess, but you can get as close as you can and then just kind of adjust that as we go along. Okay, so I'm going to move that there. And then I've got this one point right here. I'm going to hit T on the keyboard to go to the top and push that all the way over to this point right here. So let's hit Alt and X, and it should give us a shape kind of like that. All right, very, very good. All right, so now the last thing that we need to deal with on this is that we've got these edges right along the center in our canopy, and we don't necessarily need those at this point. Now, I can come in here and go to segment mode, and I can select those edges, and I can simply delete those out, and it's not going to cause any problem with my model. I could even do the same thing here. Now, I could do that, but that's destructive because you never know on down the road if you'll need that. If it's not hurting anything, go ahead and just leave it. Same thing with your modifiers. Whenever you're modeling and you use a modifier like the bend modifier, if it's giving you the shape and the result that you want, leave the modifier in there until you are absolutely certain that you do not need it any longer. And then you can go ahead and remove and get into that destructive type modeling to where it's gone forever if you get too far along in the project. Alright, so now that we have this shape here in the fuselage, I'm really happy with how that's looking so far. A couple of things that I see that are not matching up to the shape of my fuselage. You'll see that we have this line right here, and we need to get that line into our fuselage. So what we're going to do in our next lesson is we're going to learn how to create that and start working with some of these different details. All right, so I'll see you then.